This lecture centers on the idea of reflective practice and why it's important. We all have heard the adage that practice makes perfect, but we also have come to know that only perfect practice makes perfect. And because of that, it's important that we engage in a reflective practice. That is, we have to assess and make adjustments as needed. If you click on the link here to reflective practice, you'll find these definitions. A reflective practice means that we evaluate or assess, determine what we're doing well, what we're doing poorly, and make the necessary adjustments. Unless we do that, we simply keep doing things wrong. The important component here is that we as human beings cannot actually see ourselves. We use mirrors, we use other people, and sometimes those reflections are not necessarily accurate. As a result, we sometimes make adjustments we don't mean to, or that we don't need to. And in order to improve, we typically look not at what we do well, but it's important that we look at what we do poorly or badly in order to improve what we do. If you talk to a musician, they practice the things that they don't do well, and then they put that back into the parts that they can do easily. And that's the same idea that we're going to apply to writing. We need to identify what we do badly, understand how to make the necessary corrections, and then practice so that we can learn to do it correctly. I typically use free throw shooting as an example of reflective practice simply because it seems so very simple. If you look at the image at the center of the page, you see that there are basically 5 parts of the process of shooting a free throw. If you look at the image over on the right-hand side, you'll see that there are 5 points that are made about shooting a free throw. And if we listen to Michael Jordan, and unfortunately the video seems to be having a problem, if we listen to Michael Jordan, he spends almost 6 minutes explaining to us what we need to do to accomplish this simple process of shooting a free throw. The reason I use it as an example is because, as Jordan points out, it's deceptively easy. But it's actually very hard because you're having to deal with yourself on the court. You're having to talk to yourself because you don't have a defender, and so the focus is internal rather than external. And that's very similar to what happens when we write. Writing is an interactive process. Once we get it down on paper, we have to have someone to read it before we know if we've been effective or not. Fortunately, for someone learning to shoot a free throw, all that person has to do is see whether the ball goes through the basket. We can expand this idea a little bit and talk about the fact that when we play in athletics, when we play a game, if we're on a field of play, we have particular rules that we all agree to and all go by. If you listen to the announcers on a Saturday afternoon or a Monday night football game, they're going to tell you about the rules and how they apply and why they don't apply in particular situations. When we're in an academic writing situation, we have particular rules that apply. On the other hand, if we're playing a pickup game, a few friends outside and decide to play basketball, we agree on the rules, and they may change through the process of playing. The same thing happens in language. We agree certain things are appropriate in certain settings. When I send a text message, I use abbreviations. I don't use periods. I do capitalize the beginnings of sentences, but I often use dashes or hyphens instead of periods. But that's not what I do in an academic setting. So just like in sports, we need feedback In athletics, we need feedback to let us know when we're doing something correctly, but we can see that very easily. We have casual rules and formal rules, and all of those things are true in writing as well. We have rules that apply in academic writing that don't apply when we send a text message to our best friend. In writing, the one thing we have to do is to look at what we do wrong. And because that's a difficult thing to do, it's important to have someone who can provide feedback. And that's what we do in this class. Between your classmates and me, we provide information that lets you see if you're getting it right. Is it going through the basket or is it close? And then you make adjustments and move forward. Anytime you have questions, please ask, but always make sure that you go back to the fundamentals. What is a basic paragraph? What is a well-developed sentence? What are the fundamentals that you have to address in order to be effective? If you have questions, please let me know.